The crucial fight for Scotland's future. Why Westminster Unionist parties must be expelled from Holyrood in 2026. Scotland stands at a crossroads in its history. With every passing election, the fate of the nation, its people, and its future generations hangs in the balance. The 2026 Holyrood election will be one of the most decisive in Scottish history. It is imperative that those who care for Scotland, its culture, its resources, and its autonomy understand the dire consequences of allowing Westminster Unionist parties to remain seated in the Scottish Parliament. These parties, whose primary loyalty lies with London and the interests of the UK, work together to undermine Scotland's political progress and the will of the Scottish people. If we are to secure a prosperous, independent future for Scotland, we must collectively ensure that no Westminster-controlled Unionist party holds power in Holyrood after 2026. The presence of Westminster Unionist parties, whether they call themselves Scottish Labour, Scottish Conservative or Liberal Democrat, is detrimental to Scotland. Their interests are not aligned with those of the Scottish people. Their loyalty lies in protecting the status quo of a union that disadvantages Scotland. They are bound by their allegiance to Westminster, an institution that has historically marginalised and exploited Scottish resources, culture and political will. When Unionist parties sit in Holyrood, they act as the political arm of Westminster, actively undermining the Scottish Government's efforts to deliver on the people's mandate. These parties may appear to disagree on the surface, but their ultimate goal is the same: to prevent Scotland from charting its own course, from choosing its own destiny. They consistently work against the aspirations of the Scottish people, from resisting calls for independence referendums to blocking critical policies that would improve Scotland's infrastructure, economy and well-being. They seek to limit the powers of the Scottish Parliament, preventing it from functioning as a true representative of the Scottish people. It is crucial to recognise that Westminster Unionist parties work together in Holyrood to oppose the pro-Scottish government, regardless of party affiliation. Their opposition is often tactical and designed to derail any policies that would further Scotland's national interest. This is not simply about partisan politics, it's about suppressing Scotland's sovereignty and self-determination. When these parties unite, they form a significant obstacle to progress, using their influence to slow down or block legislation that could benefit Scotland. Whether it is opposing progressive taxation policies that would address inequality or undermining health and education reforms, Westminster Unionists act in lockstep to preserve a union that benefits the elite in London, not the people of Scotland. They use their position to propagate fear and uncertainty about Scotland's future as an independent nation, trying to convince the electorate that Scotland cannot thrive on its own. This narrative is false, designed to keep Scotland shackled to a union that no longer serves its interests. By allowing Westminster parties to retain seats in Holyrood, we are allowing agents of another government to dictate what happens in Scotland. This must end in 2026. The upcoming election is about more than electing a government. It is about ensuring that Scotland has a government that places its interests and the interests of its people above those of Westminster. A pro-Scottish, pro-Scotland government is one that will work to expand Scotland's powers, secure its autonomy and ultimately achieve full independence. Such a government will not be distracted by Westminster politics or by the agenda of Unionist parties that do not have Scotland's best interests at heart. Electing a strong, pro-Scottish government means that Holyrood will have the mandate and the unity to move forward with policies that benefit the people. From bolstering the economy through investment in renewable energy, to advancing social justice and building a more equitable society, a pro-Scottish government is the only path forward if we are to secure a prosperous and fair future for all Scots. Moreover, it is not enough to have a pro-Scottish government leading Holyrood. The opposition benches must also be filled with pro-Scottish MSPs. Those who challenge the government, not on the basis of loyalty to a foreign parliament, but on the grounds of what is best for Scotland. This creates a healthy, forward-thinking parliament where debates focus on advancing Scotland's interests, not preserving a decaying union. To allow Westminster Unionist parties to retain seats in the Scottish Parliament is to invite further erosion of Scottish autonomy. Westminster has already shown that it will not hesitate to interfere in Scottish matters when it suits its purposes. It has limited Scotland's legislative powers, blocked referendums, and worked to undermine the Scottish Government's ability to govern. If Westminster Unionist parties are still in Holyrood after 2026, they will continue to be used as tools to resist the progress that Scotland needs. They will work tirelessly to stoke division, spread misinformation, and create a sense of dependence on the Union. By keeping them in the Scottish Parliament, we are effectively allowing agents of Westminster to set up roadblocks against the will of the Scottish people. We are giving them a platform to obstruct the fight for independence and prosperity. This is why it is absolutely vital that in 2026 no Unionist party be given the opportunity to sit in the Scottish Parliament. Every seat they hold is a vote against Scotland's future. The stakes have never been higher. If Scotland is to be a nation that controls its own resources, decides its own laws, and chooses its own future, we must elect a parliament that is wholly committed to that vision. A parliament free from the influence of Westminster Unionist parties. A parliament filled with pro-Scottish, pro-Scotland MSPs who understand that their first and only allegiance is to the people of Scotland. This is not a fight we can afford to lose. The Westminster Unionists will not give up easily. They will deploy every single trick in the book to maintain their influence in Scotland. But we, the people of Scotland, have the power to stop them. By working together, by mobilising and voting for pro-Scottish candidates in every single constituency, we can create a parliament that works exclusively for Scotland and its people. If we fail to act in 2026, we risk leaving a legacy of continued subservience to Westminster, where future generations of Scots are denied the opportunity to live in a truly free and independent nation. The consequences of inaction will be felt for decades to come. More cuts to public services, more decisions made in London, more suppression of Scotland's ambitions. But if we stand together, we can ensure that Scotland's future is decided by Scots, for Scots. The 2026 Holyrood election is our opportunity to take control of Scotland's destiny. It is our opportunity to build a nation that reflects our values, our aspirations, and our identity. By ensuring that no Westminster Unionist party has a seat in Holyrood, we can create a parliament that works for all of the people of Scotland, a government and an opposition united in their commitment to Scotland's future. For Scotland to flourish, we must elect a pro-Scottish government and ensure that every single MSP in Holyrood is there to fight for Scotland's best interests. This is our moment. We cannot, we must not let it slip away.